Meet Parker Bennett, real estate agent. Parker loves Kamloops. Parker has a background in building inspections, so he knows houses. This is the Kamloops Insider with Parker Bennett.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Kamloops Insider. I'm your host, Parker Bennett from Royal LePage Westwind Realty, and this week we're talking wood heat. Okay, so what do you need to know if you're purchasing a house that has a wood fireplace or a wood stove or a wood furnace? What does all that stuff mean, and how should you properly do your due diligence? So I break it down into two categories. On one hand, you have wood fireplaces, and on the other hand, you have wood appliances. And to break the difference between the two, a wood fireplace is something that is built into the house when it was built, when it was designed. A mason would have came when the house was being constructed, would have built a chimney, and they would have put a fireplace in, typically the upstairs and the basement of a home. And here in Kamloops, we have a lot of BC builder box type homes. And those homes come usually equipped with two fireplaces, one on each level. On the other hand, you have wood appliances. Wood appliances take into account wood furnaces, wood hearth heaters, wood stoves, what we commonly refer to as wood inserts. And basically what those are appliances that are built in a manufactured facility that are manufactured and designed to work within certain limits inside the house, and they are installed in the house. In a lot of cases, they're retrofitted into an existing chimney. Okay, let's look at the characteristics of a basic masonry wood-burning fireplace. So for starters, there's a hearth. It's typically brick or made out of blocks or made out of concrete. You have a rock, mason, brick type facing. You have either a metal firebox or a brick firebox. And on the outside wall of the house, you have a brick or masonry chimney. Now inside that chimney is a very distinct red clay flue tile. And that tile is super important because that's where the smoke goes from the fireplace into that flue tile, which goes up the chimney and out above the peak of your house. So when you're purchasing a home that has a wood burning fireplace, the problem is that the home inspector is probably not going to touch on this at all. And there's a couple key areas that you need to check. So first of all, you want to have a look at the firebox to make sure that there's no significant deterioration in there. But the most important thing that you're going to want to check is you're going to want to have somebody with the right credentials evaluate the chimney flue tile. In a lot of cases, and I would say above 90%, in a home that's going to have a wood burning fireplace like this, those flue tiles are going to be cracked, and that typically doesn't get evaluated by a home inspector. It typically doesn't get evaluated at all because the insurance companies don't require any sort of inspection of a masonry fireplace. So if you're buying a home and you have a wood burning fireplace, number one thing you want to check is that chimney flue tile to make sure it doesn't have cracks in it. In a lot of cases, the efficiency of this kind of component in your house is below negative. It's terrible. What happens is all the warm air inside your house creeps into the fireplace and up the flue tile, creates a bit of a vortex, and the flow of air, warm air that's coming out of your furnace is always rolling up that chimney, robbing you of nice warm air. In a lot of cases, a fireplace like this will be open as well. Sometimes they have these steel grates here or glass doors, but these are superficial, and warm, hot air will still leak out the fireplace. Let's go look at a wood burning appliance. So when I think of wood burning appliance, the first thing that comes to mind is a wood stove. And a wood stove would be like a pot belly type stove that has a chimney pipe that comes out of the top and maybe goes into the brick masonry chimney. And that absolutely is a wood burning appliance. But here's a little bit different. This is a wood hearth heater, which is also an appliance that has been installed into an existing wood burning fireplace. So if you can imagine that last video where we looked at the fireplace, imagine taking the doors off and then installing a wood burning stove inside of that existing structure and connecting it to the chimney. Let's have a better look. So the first thing we notice differently is the door is airtight. It has a gasket around the outside edge because this guy is going to bring in its own oxygen from outside and it is going to burn that oxygen without so much leakage of the preheated furnace heated air inside the house, which makes it a little more efficient. Inside, you can tell that this is an appliance that's built within that fireplace, and this is a really good example of something that would need to be evaluated by a wet inspector before you purchased a home. Now, what a wet inspector is going to do is it's a very specific certification, and that inspector is going to come and verify that the appliance has been installed correctly to the manufacturer's installation instructions, and in a lot of cases to the BC Building Code. Now, the value of that is essentially this. Let's say we were to install this wood-burning appliance incorrectly. The key features would be it would be installed too close to a combustible material, and that combustible material could catch on fire, like a wall or a floor, combustible floor, or maybe even like a chair or a TV that was installed too close. So that wet inspection takes into account all those combustible materials, as well as looking at the manufacturer's installation instructions to verify that that appliance has been installed correctly. They will certify that appliance, and you will be able to take that paperwork to your insurance company, and you will be able to get fire insurance on your property with the wood-burning appliance. Now, in a lot of cases in Kamloops, if you have a wood-burning appliance, even with a valid wet inspection report on that appliance, you're probably going to pay a premium on your fire insurance. Okay, 2 key takeaways from this video. 1, if you have a wood-burning fireplace, it doesn't necessarily need to have a wet inspection to evaluate it for insurance purposes, but really check out that chimney because there's a good chance it's probably cracked and deficient. The second takeaway is going to be on a wood-burning appliance. You're definitely going to want to have it wet inspected. If you're purchasing a home, you're going to want to have that wet inspection take place during your due diligence period. That way, if there's any issues, you can put it onto the seller. I want to thank you for joining us on this edition of the Kamloops Insider, and I hope you learned something.
Call Parker Bennett now for your complimentary home evaluation.